The impact of high inflation on your retirement funds. In some ways, we're getting used to it because for over a year now, and I'm making this video March of 2023 in case you're looking at it at a later date, the impact of high inflation, we've been having it for over a year. Last year, maybe we were 6% up and it was like, oh my, we've been at 2 and 3% for 30 or 40 years. And we were all astounded by it. And now because it was at 9 and it's sort of creeping down and it's close to 6% per month, we're thinking, oh, well, it's still 6%. But what people fail to realize sometimes is those are stacked. In other words, last year in March, it was 6% over the previous year. And this year, when we get the March total, it's 6% over last year, which is 12% over what it was 2 years ago. Ben Bernanke is a former Federal Reserve chairman, and he used to call inflation a creeping tax because of the way it just slowly creeps up. And obviously, in the last year and a half, we've had nothing creeping about inflation. It's just been creepy how fast it has grown. So let's talk about inflation and how it's grown and what's being done about it. Well, first of all, again, we're in March of 2023. Right now, the Federal Reserve is raising rates. And just this month, they announced they tied a record for the 9th consecutive meeting. They have raised interest rates. Now, why are they raising interest rates? Really important. They're trying to mitigate, offset, or counteract, in other words, to, again, offset inflation. As they raise rates, the thought is, now literally this is what it is, and they've had questions about this on the floors of Congress and in the committees of Congress. When they raise rates, they're trying to slow down the economy. When they slow down the economy, they're trying, yes, to slow down prices, but the way to slow down prices is to raise unemployment. So think about what we've had for almost a year. We've had inflation rates continuing to be high. So we've raised the rates to try to counter that, and it has some, but not nearly enough. It's still 3 times as much. It's not working. It's still 3 times what it was for 30 or 40 years. But as they've done that, they were expecting a little bit more unemployment. But more and more and more people are going to work, and there are more jobs available out there than there are people to fill them. So whatever they do, I want you to understand it's not working right now. It's still 3 times harder than it always has been for the last 30 or 40 years, since way back to what most people refer to the Jimmy Carter days. And if you live those, you don't have any question about what I'm talking about. And if you didn't live those, you don't have any idea what I'm talking about. My first house, I was able to get it in 1979, and I only paid 15.4% interest on a complete house and a 30-year mortgage. Boy, that is so high. I paid on that thing for about 6 years, and I think I paid it down $1,800. And that's what happens with high inflation that drives up the interest rate to that high. So you got to be careful. Now, how is it impacting you? It could impact you in several ways. I want to talk about those, okay? Here we go. The impact on you, because that's the most important thing. And that's the thing, like Ben Bernanke said, it's a creeping tax. It sort of slips up on you, and you don't really know that it's there. And then all of a sudden, gotcha, because it's probably impacting your budget. Now, we've heard about eggs. We've heard about other things. I've got a client that owns 2 restaurants in the Inland Empire here in Southern California. And they were telling me that a box of lettuce that they buy for the restaurant used to be around $25 or $30, and now they're paying $75 to $85 for the same box of lettuce. So you wonder why it's $15 to go get a hamburger, fries, and a Coke? It's because their prices are significantly higher. Not even talking about eggs. So your budget, what you're spending. You might want to say, well, my budget has stayed the same. It's what I'm trying to provoke you to do. Maybe you need to look at your budget and you need to see what you're spending. And you might not even know it because of 2 things. You might be drawing more money. Here's a place to check. This is a secondary place to check. Check your savings account. Check the money market or the savings that you've had in the bank. That anytime the account gets low and the checking, maybe you just bump a little money over there. Is your savings account beginning to dwindle? And I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just wanting to get you to check. You also might check your credit cards. Are my credit card balances going up? Are you say, well, it's too much for me to pay this month. I'll just tie it over one time and have a balance for a month. Or maybe the balance that you always maintain is getting higher. See, this is the way that inflation impacts you. You say, my budget's about the same, but you may be drawing more money down out of your savings or building up more debt in your credit cards. And only you can check. And if you're not careful, you go 5, 6, 10 months without checking and you say, wow, look what credit card debt I've run up. Or wow, look how low my savings are. And it's catching up with you. Now, here's one more thing. You have a specific rate of inflation. I had somebody in my office recently said, and we were talking about inflation and they were talking about eggs and they were saying, both of them said it was a married couple and they said, we're glad we don't eat eggs. Okay. Eggs are not the only thing. Okay. There are other things, particularly if you're retired. Look at the price of airline flights. Look at the price of cruises. I've looked at all of those. They're up like 40, 45, 50%. They'll put on a special every now and then, jump on those. But the price of overall luxury leisure, you might call it as a category, which a lot of you want to do when you're in those go-go years right after you retire, your actual inflation rate of what you're spending may be far higher. You say, well, I just bought a car and I know exactly what you're talking about. It's amazing how much the price of cars has escalated in the past 2 or 3 years, far more than you would ever normally expect. Go spend about an hour walking around a car lot. Make sure somebody's with you in case you have a heart attack when you read the stickers, because everything's going up. If you're buying a car, if you're going on a cruise, if you're going on an airline flight, your inflation rate may be even higher than the national inflation rate. So here's what you need to do. Here's what you always need to do. You need to make sure it might be time for you to tweak your spending. And what I mean by that, and I'm not trying to be your enemy, but you may need to go in and look at what you're spending month to month and maybe cut out some things you don't really need. There are so many people, and I call it dripping nickels. I stole that from a friend of mine one time who said that in a presentation. But there are a lot of people, you're having things taken out on your checking account or on your credit cards that you don't even use anymore. And you need to go through there and just see how many nickels that you're dropping, okay? Because those little things, they're little, so you don't think about them, but they mount up over a period of time, especially if it's something you don't use. Look at your checkbook. Look at your credit cards. What are you buying that maybe during this inflationary time you could tweak and maybe move down your budget just a little bit? So tweaking is one thing. It's time also to maybe get an overall plan, because you may be one of those that you don't really have a plan. You're just looking at the lump sum that you've always had. And you might be one of those that needs a real plan that says, how am I going to deal with income for the rest of my life? And what if I live another 20 years? Am I spending so much money during this inflationary period that I'm putting in jeopardy what I'm going to be doing when I'm 85, 88, 90 years old? Or if you're married and there's only one of you, what am I doing that's going to put in jeopardy a surviving spouse when they're 85 or 90 years old? One lady had a profound statement about 2 months ago in our conference room. She says, I'm not so concerned about being able to go to Europe when I'm 65. I want a plan that makes sure that I'm going to be able to go to the grocery store when I'm 85. And you need to focus, go have fun. I'm not saying don't go to Europe, but I'm saying put together a plan that gives you guaranteed increasing income for the rest of your life. We can help you do that, but only if you have a plan. And then it might be time for you to get an advisor like us or somebody else, but somebody who's a professional to help you navigate not just what you're going through now, but what you're going to go through for the rest of your life, no matter how long you live. We call it this way. You've just got a lumber yard. If you just got that IRA and that Roth, and every year you go pull a few things over there, this year you're having to pull a lot more lumber out to work on your house, and you're 65 and the lumber's money, by the way, and you're pulling it out of your IRA, you're pulling it out of your 401k, and maybe you're getting a few doors and windows and trusses and all those things, and you look and you say, well, I'm 65, this lumber yard looks pretty good. But when you get to be 74, if you don't really have a plan, or 72 or 77, you're going to go to get that annual installment from your lumberyard lump sum, and you may look at it and you may say, wow, there's not a lot of lumber here left, and I'm pretty healthy. I'm going to last a long time. Or I'm not that healthy, but my spouse is. And so that's the difference in having a lumberyard where you just go get us whatever you need every year and hope that it's going to work out, and having a retirement blueprint that actually shows you how you can be certain that you're going to have enough income for the rest of your life. That's your paycheck. And then the rest is your playcheck for you to go enjoy it and have the contentment and the ability to sleep well at night, because you know you're going to be taken care of. No matter how long you live, you're going to have enough income. Again, we're talking in this video about the impact. And by the way, you can get a hold of us at info@mosleywealthmanagement.com. That's MOSLEY, wealthmanagement.com. Or you can get a hold of us at 714-421-4288. And if the impact of high inflation on your retirement plans and your retirement savings is something that is important to you, give us a call or talk to somebody. But don't just watch this video and then go and do nothing about it. The Bible talks about that in James. It says you look into a mirror and you see something and you walk away and you don't change, or you don't do anything about it. This video does you no good unless you respond to it to help yourself. I'll see you next time.
Investment advisory services offered by duly registered individuals from Mosley Wealth Management Inc. MWM and Mosley Insurance and Financial Services are affiliated companies by common ownership. License number 0K76766. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by financial strength, capabilities, and the issuing carrier. This content is intended for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of the individual situation. All hypothetical examples are provided for illustrative purposes only. They do not represent real life scenarios. Mosley Insurance and Financial Services nor its agents or representatives may not be tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a qualified professional for guidance before making any investment decision. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. Some of the information provided may be from one or more third parties which we believe to be reliable sources, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Mosley Insurance and Financial Services.